Hello. So this is our second episode of Mystic Chat. I want to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Chris Allen. I am an ordained minister at the Fellowship of the Phoenix. I am a, a three-time published author, about to be fourth um, in the fall. And I wanted to have a discussion panel that's a weekly going thing, and it gives a different pagans and witches and mystical people's point of view, storytelling, and things like that. Um, so, Amy, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, my name is Amy Alice, but actually I am better known as the fairy Ruby Ruse. I have a YouTube channel and I discuss working with the Fae. I talk about fairy folklore and mythology and a host of other topics on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. Luke, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, my name's Luke Babb. I am a devotional polytheist. Um, call myself a skeptical spirit worker. I work a lot with the Norse and Hellenic pantheons, as well as also being a member of the Fellowship of the Phoenix. And I'm glad to be here.
That's awesome. And we get this today. We have the fabulous Laura Gonzalez. Laura, thank you for coming to the show today. I hope this is one of many, many, many shows you do with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and who you are.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Of course, it's my pleasure to be among friends. And what do I do? Oh my God, what don't I do? I'm a podcaster with Circle Century Network podcast. I've been podcasting for 10 years on different networks, doing interviews and getting to know and learn, of course, from a whole bunch of wonderful guests that we have on the show. Um, I'm a Dianic priestess ordained in 2018. I have been a Wiccan eclectic for about 10, 12 years now. And I also practice the Mexica, Tenochca philosophical practices or the native practices of Mexico, which is not pagan per se, but that's a different conversation. And I also do a whole lot of Wicca and witchcraft and most of anything, I guess I'm a communicator. When it comes to my personal practice, I'm a priestess, and we have a tiny temple here on the south side, near South Loop of Chicago, called the Fraternity of the Goddess Chicago. It's it's a Dianic temple, but our services are interreligious and non-denominational, earth-based, obviously. And that's kind of in short what I do. So thank you for inviting me.
That's awesome. So, one of the other reasons I wanted to do this show with everybody is because I knew a lot of us are isolated, and we haven't actually seen or actually got to touch people in such a long time, and I wanted to stay connected. And the conversations I've been having online with people and with friends and with colleagues is how are we coping with this self quarantine? How are we dealing? How are we connecting? And Laura was telling us that she has what's helping her and what's powerful to her is ritual. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about that and what you do and how ritual and things help you. And what does that mean for you?
Well, first of all, understanding what is ritual and why do we do ritual, right? There are so many times in our mundane lives that we follow rituals. The mere act of sitting together at the table, having a meal together, it is indeed a ritual because There is no scientific or social need. There is no scientific need of sitting together and eating, but there is a social aspect of communing with your people and sitting together and sharing a meal. So those little rituals that we do every day, and I can mention a whole bunch of them. I promise you, if you think about it, you all jump in the shower the same way every time, and you wash your extremities in the same order every time you take a shower. It's the same way because it's part of those daily rituals. So when we lose our normalcy, when we lose our quotidianity, it is a very important part of our practice, spiritual, religious, or otherwise, to continue with those activities, right? There was this joke of continue with your daily activities, and there was a photo of a guy holding the bathroom pipe, you know, as if he was on a train. As funny as this may be, it actually helped us keep our mindset. And for example, for those of you who follow me on social media, you know, every first of the month I post this funny thing saying, today's the first of the month, don't forget to light your first of the month candle because today is the first of the month. I do this every month. I think I've been doing it for years now. My phone just goes into auto fill and fills it up. April 1st felt weird. It felt like,
Wow.
first of all, my head is frozen in March 15th because that was the last day I went out and I was at an event.
Wait, you haven't been out of your house at all?
I mean, I've been walking my dog, but I've gone shopping twice, maybe 3 times.
Okay.
But ever since stores only let one person shop, my husband has done all the shopping.
Yeah.
So since March 15th, I have gone to the store 3 times and I walk my dog every day. So, you know, but when April 1st came, it was like, oh yeah, it's the first. It feels so weird that it's been 15 days since I haven't been out. And, but I thought, you know, so what? It's the first of the month and I need to do my devotional because I do a lot of little devotionals here and there, taking care of myself, especially my devotional work, feeding myself and taking care of myself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually is my ritual. But the actual devotional that makes me feel very connected to the deities with whom I work is doing the first of the month candle. And it felt very weird. It felt very like my head's still frozen on March 15th.
Yeah.
So that made me reflect on the fact that how important it is for us to find what will be our new normal. And with that, carrying on with what feels familiar and what makes me feel connected with the divine, with the deities that I work with. And I peel myself off the couch and I got the candles and I put the candles in front of them and I say the usual words that I use to do it, and I lit the candles. And then I did what is now part of my ritual, which is go to Facebook and today is the first of the month, don't forget to light your first of the month candle, da da da. And it felt good. It felt, no pun intended here, it felt like coming back home. I know we've been home, but but spiritually is such an important thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I also started doing these meditations every Tuesday on our temple. And when the time came for our monthly ritual, I said, you know what, I'm going to do an online ritual because it's important as a priestess and it's important as a pagan, part of the pagan community that to me, it's important to be there for people. Plot twist is I'm there because I need it.
You know, I think it's a very interesting because I have to say I'm the same way because being an energy healer, massage therapist, or Reiki master, what have you, I always had a daily energy routine. Like, and I've talked about on some of the videos I've posted, like center ground shield, clean your chakras, and so forth. And just because life happens, I got away from that, you know. And I'm always in my head going, I need to do it, I need to do it, I need to do it. And I haven't done it in weeks and weeks and weeks. When this happened, exact same thing you're talking about. I was like, I need ritual, I need structure. Plus, even though I'm working from home, I'm doing things like this and so forth, I still need magic. I'm like, I have no excuse not to make sure I'm doing magic in my life. So I do an advanced energy routine, and I was kind of embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, I have to look this up in the book because I don't remember. That's how bad I was. So I'm doing it every day. I'm talking to my ancestors every single day. I'm talking to my patron gods, and not every day, but once a week, twice a week. And I have to tell you, that's helping. Even though I'm like, I don't get to like hang out with you guys. I mean, this helps too, but just to be connected through some type of a ritual, something is really helping, you know?
And you know, when I started doing the meditations, it was going to be only meditations, right? But then came the full moon, and a couple of the students from the temple reached out and said, you know, are you going to do some kind of blessing, or are we going to observe something about the full moon? And I have to be brutally honest with you all. I'm doing this for me. You know, I need the ritual. I need the meditation. I needed something to get a hold of myself. To give you a little bit of perspective of the background, my husband is an essential worker, so he's going out to work every day. He's not a doctor. He works at a restaurant, and he's in contact with a lot of people that come in and out of the restaurant. So I needed meditation and ritual and calmness for me. And the bonus, the side effect, the blessing that never ends given is the fact that if I share that with people, I'm also serving the community. And it is such an important part of me, you know, devotionally as a priestess. That's my vocation, is to be there for the community. And to be honest, you know, like trying to keep a sense of normalcy or familiarity that help us, as you said, ground and center, and that also remind us that, for example, I work with Goddess Fortuna, and to me, the most important part of working with Fortuna is gratitude. I think that's the key, is you give gratitude and you get good fortune. That's how my brain works.
Can we talk about that for just a second? I'm going to interrupt you. I thought that was interesting because, I mean, you know, I'm part Native American, and gratitude was a big part of our tradition. I mean, as you know, and I didn't know about that, about Fortuna. So can you explain a little bit? I mean, just for my own gratification, about the how gratitude helps with that, with Fortuna. That's fascinating.
Yes. I have to look at the little note that I have because it has a name: Unverified Personal Gnosis. This is not something. This is not something I learned from a book.
Okay.
Most of you know that I'm a very intuitive witch, and I just learned from on Unverified Personal Gnosis. So to me, like Luke, I'm very skeptic, and I think I have found in my practice that the more gratitude that I show, the more things come my way. And of course, when I reconnected with Fortuna, which was in probably 2011, I remember somebody telling me as a child, never say you're lucky, say you're fortunate, and Goddess Fortuna will be with you always. I was like 7 years old when that was said to me. And I had always say, I'm fortunate. but I kind of forgot Goddess Fortuna on the way. And then I reconnected with her in 2011, and she came like, duh, I'm always been here. So it's like when you love consciously, right? When you love consciously, you love more rich. It's more sensitive or sensible. I don't know what's the right word. And with Goddess Fortuna, I feel is the same. The more I'm grateful, of course I'm not grateful to be isolated, and I'm not grateful to be dealing with COVID-19 on the world, but I am grateful that I am safe. I am grateful that my husband is safe. I am grateful that we have jobs and that we still have a paycheck. And there's a whole lot of things that I'm not gonna bore you with that I'm grateful for. So I can choose to be miserable and to focus on what I don't have. I don't have the hugs from my friends. I don't have beautiful weather in Chicago. I'm not on the bean. I'm not downtown. Like, what's wrong? You all know me. I love to go to Chicago and take my long walks by the Millennium Park. And I'm not doing that this year, you know, and it hurts. It hurt. I mean, it put me down to tears the other day to miss the good weather. But I can choose to be miserable, or I can choose to be like, you know what? We have jobs, we have food, we have health, we have technology. Thank you, Goddess. We have each other. We have an amazing community here in Chicago and worldwide. And something I didn't know I have until I was, you know, told that I have is the skill of been doing this for many, many years, because the Spanish-speaking pagan community, this is it. This is all we know. And for the Anglo community, this is new. So I've been able to help people kind of transition into like, you know what, there's ways to be community without having to be with each other. So going back to the worship of Goddess Fortuna, I think it truly is, in a mundane way, like a bank. You know, you put in gratitude, you get blessings. And that's how it has worked for me for the last 10 years. Or my whole life, I just forgotten about her name. And I think karmically, and in other cultures like the Native American, which they also practice, is also a big part of it. You know, in the Mexica philosophies is be of service.
Yeah.
You know, be of service, and then you will receive the blessings of the world. But I don't want to take the whole hour, so.
I know.
Well,
so I was just saying that the last time I had 4 things planned, and we talked about 2, but this is great. I love this.
I've actually got a question,
Yes.
if we have a second. Yeah, because so in the heathen community which I'm a part of, there's this whole conversation that has been going on for years about whether or not you can have rituals online. Because a lot of people really believe that in order to be connected in the way, connected magically, essentially, you need to be in space with each other. And this has been like a lot of this conversation has come up in a lot of the spaces that I'm in, because a lot of those spaces are online. And it's very much a question of like how you build community, how community exists magically. And this period is the first time that I've actually done a ritual online. And it was actually a ritual through the Fellowship of the Phoenix. We have a temple in Seattle that I very rarely get to visit, being in Chicago. And they hosted a really lovely ritual that specifically had a way of built into it of bringing us all together across time and space, which I found really effective, and I found was a really good way of building community. So I'd be really interested to hear about, especially Laura, since you're talking about this is how your community works, people's experiences about building space, especially magical space and community, virtually?
Yeah. Thank you. And that's a great question. And that is something, like I say, it is a blessing to know you have a skill that others don't have, that you can share, and to find out that being this multimedia experienced priestess was going to be such a good skill to have nowadays. It's a surprise. If you think about it, this Spanish-speaking pagan community, we live in predominantly Christianized communities, right? Christian, Catholic, and this scrutinize every type of reunion of people that if it's not a Catholic mass, it's not a mass. Insert joke here. Mexico is the most pagan country in the world. Don't tell the Mexicans, they think they're Catholic. Joke aside, I'm sorry I have to say it every time. Joke aside, we don't have the luxury in the Latin American countries of getting together and doing rituals, especially on open spaces, right? Some people have a very good luck and they have a community of 10, 20 people and they can do ritual at a designated space. However, 12 years ago when we started, 10 years ago, I don't want to lie, 10 years ago when we started doing podcasting, that was it. Our podcast in Spanish, it was so successful because that was it. There was nothing else for pagans to express themselves and their spirituality. So the very first online ritual that I attended was not only online, but it was on a podcast live. And what we did, of course, it was different from, I've been to the Phoenix rituals a number of times. Thank you guys for inviting me. I have been there a number of times, and I know they're very elaborated. And they're very, I mean, you guys put a great effort to like dressing and the altars and sharing food. And I love something that you all do, that feeding each other. You know, that is really awesome to have. Obviously, you cannot have that on an online ritual, right? Because I cannot touch you. But then we have to accentuate the things that we can do. And what we can do is we can listen to each other and we can see each other, right, when it's possible. But in that case, 10 years ago, it was only listening, right? And so we take advantage of that and we modulate our voice. We do kind of like this guided meditation, shamanic work, that the person that is talking has to have the skill, has to be able to do it. And you have to guide the person and like close your eyes, visualize this, visualize that. And at the same time that you guide it, you have to leave them space hi Aaron. You have to leave them space for to fill in with their own vision of where they go and magically. So the first rituals that we have, we were calling the quarters, we were calling the elements and the god and the goddess and both and neither. And it was structured like a regular ritual, but you just didn't have the physical aspect of it, right? But it was so voice guided and people love it. And then at a certain point, we will suggest, light a candle. And now all of us are going to light a candle at the same time. That makes you feel that you're connected, that you're doing something at the same time, even though you're not doing it together. And to put a bow on top of that cake or that gift, a phrase that I learned many, many years ago, we are all of us, under the same moon.
Yeah, I've always loved that. That's so fascinating. And it's true, like one of the things I talked about in my Upper World book is one of the first things I say is gaze up at the stars. And these are the same stars that the whole world is seeing. And it's also the same stars that our ancestors are seeing. So just by looking at the moon, the stars, sometimes trees, depending, stuff like that, it should just by doing that alone connects us to each other, to the past, and to some extent the future as well.
Hmm. And if you think about it, that the ritual aspect of our spirituality, whichever your tradition is, the root of the word religion comes from the Latin religare, which means reconnect, right? Reconnect with the divine. So the aspect of doing a ritual, as beautiful, as privileged, as amazing as it is to do it in a group of people, the actual meaning of the religious aspect of ritual is to connect with the divine and you. So as sacred as it is to brush your teeth the same way every day, because that's your ritual, to brushing your teeth, you're taking care of yourself. As important as it is to do your ritual, and yes, we are connecting on community when we're doing a ritual with our community, but the aspect of ritual is to connect with the divine, is between you and the divine above, below, within, around, the divine that is everywhere. And you don't have, one of the things that I love about being pagan is we don't have to have a building. We don't have to have a specific designated place of worship.
Mm.
And the fact that you can do ritual when you're taking a shower. You can call the quarters, you can call the elements, you're like on the womb. You're naked and wet, right? So what is the best place to reconnect with the goddess than when you're on a shower? You're naked, you're wet, you're back to basics. I think ritual, it's amazing, and it doesn't have to look the same way all the time. And as long as whatever you do helps you connect with self and the divine, that's a good ritual, you know? And for some people, it might look like we can only do it when we're all together in the same space. And for some other folks, could be like, hey, I'm looking at the moon. Are you looking at the moon? Yeah, okay, so we're connected. Let's do it.
Too, that people need to recognize that connection isn't necessarily physical. It's about sharing yourself with another person. It's about being vulnerable with that person and opening yourself up to existential experiences. So I am thinking about what Luke said about how the heathen community is kind of not embracing the whole online ritual format. And I think that's a shame, because when we connect, when we are individuals and we do our own personal rituals, like Laura was talking about, we're connecting with divinity, we're connecting with our ancestors, our spirits, whatever we're working with. And we do that on an energetic level. So I think that having these online rituals are important, because it's a way to connect with another human being. It's about sharing that vulnerability with another person. It's about sharing that energetic energy and having that connection. So I wish that they would reconsider that, because when we have beer with Thor, it's not necessarily on the same plane that we are, but he's there with us.
And I want to do no, that's I mean, and honestly, I agree with you. But I want to like do justice to the community by actually like explaining why they have this difference of opinion, because it's a theological thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have there's this idea in heathenry of ritual being a way in which the people involved weave their fates together, essentially. And I'm
very physical too. There's a lot of physical aspects with heathenism.
And the like specifically here, and the way that how I hear this talked about a lot, is there's this idea of you have a cup of something, or a horn or a glass, and you speak words over the horn, and it becomes the well of weird. So like the well at the base of the world where fate is kept. And your words go into it, and then you drink from it and you pass it to the next person. And for some people, that act, that physical act, is a lot of how ritual works. And my understanding of their arguments, because again, I'm speaking for somebody else right now. My understanding is that for them, it doesn't work the same if there is not that actual physical connection through the liquid, right?
I would have to agree that they're correct. It's not the same. Because
Right.
we don't have that, because humans are very physical animals.
Mm-hmm.
Social in that way. A human touch is very different from a virtual one on the internet. So
Yeah.
completely appreciate the struggle they're going through.
Yeah.
What I think about that will be, for example, with Reiki, because as somebody Cassandra just commented, I just had a heart chakra meditation, then a Reiki sound bath, both live online, and felt the energies. Yes, you can feel the energy with the Reiki, with the sound bath, with etc. And then again with Reiki, initiation into the first level of Reiki cannot be done online. I cannot stress this hard enough, because there are some unscrupulous folks out there selling or giving away level 1 Reiki attunements online. That's not real. You cannot attune someone to Reiki online, period. It has to be in person. That said, maybe I'm not familiar with the heathen tradition of the cup as you explained it right now so beautifully, but I understand, yeah, you cannot do that on an online service, period. It's not going to be the same. So the question will be, for us to ponder is, can we adapt our tradition into something that is a little bit different for the time being, and still have some sense of connection? Or no, we're not going to meet until we can meet in person, or we're going to do it on our own at the same time. I mean, I'm not part of that tradition, so I wouldn't know how to address that.
And like, even within the tradition, people are doing it, are coming to different conclusions, right? For me, the way I think about connection, I've been to a couple of rituals that worked really well and were really lovely, where we just all had our own thing to drink from. It's not quite the same, but it works. For me, I don't think it would work for everybody. And there's also this whole idea of like, I mean, the thing that really stood out to me, one of my teachers once told me, all flames are the same flame, because a flame is the same chemical reaction no matter where it is. So through a flame, you can access all the other flames in the world, right? That is, and sort of all the other flames throughout time. And that is a lot of how I think about water and wells, especially since you're in this practice connecting to a very deep magical well. By putting that connection together, like, everybody, no matter where they are, can tap into that center point, and the center point can come back out. The other ritual that I did online recently that worked really, really well is we all went to a crossroads and looked out from the crossroads in the different directions to see each other at other people's crossroads, which, I mean, I do some work with Hecate, and it was beautiful. Like, it was a beautiful way to do that. So I think it can work, but I also think that it very much depends on how you access things and how you believe things.
I think you're 100% right. As I'm hearing everybody, one of the things I love about traditional witchcraft, it has a very similar philosophy of ceremony as the Lakota, actually, and I think it's a universal thing, because at the time the two never corresponded or anything like that. So there's two things with that. The first thing is just like you said, Luke, of whenever you do a full moon ceremony, you are connected to everyone who has ever done a full moon ceremony, who's doing it right now and who's doing it in the future. Same thing with the Vision Quest or Sweat Lodge or a Sundance or whatever ceremony. You're tapping into the greater energies. And one of the things that I keep thinking about, speaking of traditional craft, is that back in the 14, 15, 1600s, you didn't go to, oh, bye, I'm going to ceremony, bye, okay, I hope I don't get hung or burned alive as a witch. So they would astral project. You know, we've all heard of the Wild Hunt, and they would astral project to the Sabbath. And one of my teachers a long time ago online, a traditional craft teacher online, told me, because I was like, hey, I'm starting a traditional group, do you have any advice? And the first thing he said is, he said, don't stress about having a good ceremony. He said, try just to connect energetically. And so I think you can do that certainly online. You can connect energetically, or you can astral project. And yes, because I was always trained that a good ceremony has a spiritual aspect, an energetic aspect, an emotional aspect, and a physical aspect. You try to incorporate all those things somehow, and the sharing of the horn is certainly physical, or treading the mill, or dancing or moving, or whatever you're doing, that physical aspect. But I think you can incorporate a physical aspect to exactly what Laura was saying. Like, okay, now everybody, we're gonna dance around the cauldron fire, and maybe instead of having a big cauldron fire, it's little, and you dance in your living room or whatever you need to do. But I mean, you can't compensate for a physical expression or physical touch, but you can remember what that's like. You can bring to your vision what that's like. It's not the same, but while we're in quarantine, and to be honest, like half of my circles spread all over the US, and so I have to communicate with them online. That's all I have. I have half in Chicago and the other half are less than half in Chicago now, right? Spread everywhere. So online's a good format. I kind of want to weave into, speaking of ceremony and witchcraft, I want to make sure we have time for Amy's talk on fairy, because she is our fairy queen, for lack of a better word, and I always enjoy her research and what she has to say, and she's just so in touch with the Fae. I think you're gonna enjoy it. So take it away, Amy.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is that, people seem to think that the Fae are an element of folklore, that they're just this imaginary image that is part of our collective past or something like that. I don't see the Fae in that way. I see them very much as very physical beings that manifest right here, right now, in our own modern day world. So that's a lot of what I'm trying to do with my YouTube channel, is I'm trying to show that these are beings that live here in this world right now. And I was really struck by something that Laura was talking about earlier about gratitude and how that's tied to the goddess Fortuna. And I would have to say that that is very much a part of the fairy tradition as well, at least the fairy tradition that I would say practicing. This is something that's, I would say the Fae is teaching me, is that you have to, well, for me, especially during this time where everything is kind of chaotic and there's a lot of depression and isolation and darkness. Many of us have lost people in this pandemic. I've lost more than one. And, and so the process of gratitude for me has been getting me through this time. But the Fae are very specific. You have to be very specific with the Fae. So for me, with the gratitude, it has to be in the moment. Like a lot of people, that's a very common practice, is what are you grateful for? And people are always like, my kids, God, and my spouse, and I'm like, well, is that really what you're grateful for now? Because yes, obviously I'm very grateful for my child, but you know what? He drives me insane a great deal of the time. So there are moments in my life where I'm not exactly grateful for my child. And so the Fae would say that that is a lie in that moment. They're very specific. So I think that whenever I find myself having a dark thought, I stop myself and say, okay, what are you grateful for right here in this moment? And so you have to think of it in the moment. So like, for instance, right now, what am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful for my dear friend, Chris Allen, who I get to see and talk to and be a part of this ingenious production that he's come up with. I'm grateful that my cats are healthy and thriving, even in this very strange time of isolation. And I'm grateful that my child has remained healthy. I mean, you really have to focus down and be specific, because if you're just generic, the Fae do not like generic. Generic to the Fae is another form of lying. And it's not
cool.
against lying, it's that they are beings of integrity. So I think, the message of gratitude is so important right now. I think that is a way to connect with the divine and bring that gratitude into ritual, which is the main topics we've been talking about today. But I think we have to be grateful with integrity. Be honest. And you know what? It's okay that maybe we're not grateful that we're healthy right now. I mean, I've experienced that. When I recently lost my friend to the virus, I had a lot of survivor's guilt over that, and how I've been sheltered and protected against this virus, and he wasn't. So, you know what? In that moment, I wasn't grateful for my health. And, that's okay. That's a part of being human. That's a part of being in this world today, is being vulnerable and being honest and being able to admit what you're truly grateful for. And maybe acknowledging that there's some things that you're not grateful for in that moment. And definitely during this pandemic, I've had a lot of moments of integrity, of realizing, no, there are certain things right now that there's this idea, we have this moral concept in humanity that, well, I should be grateful for this. And I think we have to be careful about judging ourselves so harshly like that. I think that instead of worrying about what we should be doing, maybe we need to embrace the true integrity. And that's kind of what the Fae are teaching me right now in this time of isolation.
I think that's so powerful to say that, because a lot of times we say things out of habit. We say, oh, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. I do it. I do it all the time. And there is something to be said about fake it until you make it, about, I don't feel it right now, but maybe I'll feel it tomorrow. However, um, I think it's hard that sometimes it can be hard that being magical people, we know that our thoughts have power, and so it's a double-edged sword because our thoughts have power. So you don't want to be like, no, don't say I feel bad or don't say I'm not grateful because bad things will happen. If you just say the good things, but I think what you're saying, or one of the things I'm understanding about what the fair teaching you is your words and your heart should be congruent.
I I'm also hearing that like, and I will cite two people for teaching me this lesson. One is the god Loki, and the other is my therapist. You have to have your emotion first before you can do anything about it, right? Like I know for me, um, I don't like feeling negatively towards people, right? Like I don't like getting angry at people. I don't like being sad about something. So not. I'll just opt out of that whole emotion. And not even to the point where it used to be where I wasn't even aware that it was there, right? Um, and I would tell myself like, I love this person, therefore like it's fine, we're fine, and I'm not upset with them. Um, that doesn't stop me from being upset. And that doesn't keep the emotion from going away. That doesn't make the emotion go away. It just makes it come out in a different way, right? Um, Whereas if I look at it and I'm like, wow, I'm really angry right now. I still love this person, but gods am I angry. Then I
But
can
that's being genuine with your feelings, though. That's honoring your feeling.
absolutely, and I think that that's very much what the fairies are talking about with Ruby. Like you can be grateful for somebody in the abstract, but there are moments where you need to admit to yourself right now, no gratitude here, just rage. And then it's much more possible to affect change, and it's much more possible to like use your inherent magic to look at the situation, address it, and get back to the place that you would like to be.
Mhm.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's part of what we were talking about earlier before we opened the room for everybody else. Uh, when people are asking me, how you doing, Laura? And our our default answer is, I'm okay. And what I have decided a week into this social distancing is, I'm doing my best, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not being dishonest with myself. I'm honoring the fact that I'm not okay, but I'm trying to do the best that I can, right? And at the same time, I'm not saying, because words I live by is be impeccable with your word, because I believe on the extra heavy aspect of magic and how we think and how we express and how that manifests or materializes magically, right? So, uh, pardon my expression, but if somebody asks me how you doing, I'm not gonna be saying, "Oh, I feel like crap," right? Because that's not what I want to manifest. So,
Mm.
where I found the middle logical ground for me was being okay with answering, "I'm doing the best that I can," because that's my honest to godness answer. And it's true. I'm doing the best that I can, and there are days that I'm crawling on a ball and crying because a lot of people are dying, and we have a clown telling people to inject what knows what there, and it's just ridiculous. Uh, or I can think about, I'm excited, honestly, about how normal is never going to be normal again. I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. I'm excited to see where and how we're going to come out on the other side.
Mm.
And if I say this in a non-magical context and in a non-magical community, people might think like, God, you're crazy, you know, how can you be excited about this? Well, it's the truth, and I have to have that integrity that the Fae is telling you, Amy. Thank you for sharing that. We're doing the best that we can.
Absolutely. Ruby, so
You have to be, you know, it's okay if you're not.
absolutely.
People have asked me a couple of times, how are you doing? I'm not doing well. I'm not well right now. You know, and because sometimes we have to tell, you know, we do have to reach out and ask for help, and we can't do that if we're not honest about our feelings. So sometimes I don't do my best. Sometimes I'm not trying my best. For the first 2 weeks, I was, you know, didn't get dressed. So, but that, once again, I think that goes back to what I was saying about gratitude, is that we can find ourselves, we can find our way out of that momentary darkness if we think about what there is to be grateful for in the moment. And sometimes it is a struggle to find that gratitude, but it is there to be found. And we've just got to keep that hope and that faith alive, I think.
Wow. So we're hitting on the hour, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to stop recording here in a second, and then we'll open it up to questions and things like that. So Ruby, we've only barely touched on the Fae today because I think we were hitting some really
We talked about some important things.
Powerful things today, and I'm grateful. Speaking of gratitude, I'm grateful for all you guys. Oh my God, you guys so impressed me. Laura, oh my God, you are just amazing. Luke, how you engage conversation and how you just think about things, I'm in awe. And of course, Ruby, I've known for, I can't even tell you when, forever. So I appreciate all you guys. Don't go. Hey, I'm gonna stop recording, and we will have a show again next Saturday. I'm believing at the same time. Since we're all in quarantine, I guess it'll be at the same time. So I'm thinking maybe next show, Ruby, if we talk more about the Fae and things like that. I have some ideas, so.
I want to pick your brain. So.
Yeah, me too.
Here.
I'm just gonna stop recording.